The seer's hands shook as they hovered over the photo, a sharp breath escaping their lips. The room seemed to grow heavier, filled with something unseen. Their calm expression broke, eyes widening as they scanned the image, searching for something only they could sense. It felt as though they had stepped into another world, one only visible to them. The man across the table noticed the shift and sat up straighter, alarmed. He had expected curiosity, not this tension. His interest turned to worry as he watched the seer wrestle with something invisible. He leaned in, heart pounding. Gently, the seer set the photograph down, handling it as though it weighed more than it should. "This person," they said, their voice barely audible, "is unlike any other. They carry a presence that reaches into the soul." Their words lingered in the thick silence. The man gripped the table tighter, waiting. The seer looked straight at him, their gaze deep and unwavering. "They are a force for change. People like this don't just appear. They're sent. Their energy reveals truths we bury, feelings we ignore." A shiver ran through the man. He had always felt something strange around the person in the photo, a pull he couldn't explain, a sense of both warmth and discomfort. Now the seer was saying aloud what he had never dared to consider. "You must understand," the seer said softly, leaning closer. "They didn't come into your life by chance. You are tied together by invisible threads that stretch through time." The man swallowed, his throat dry. He had never believed much in fate, but something about the seer's voice made it feel real. He remembered their conversations, the way the person's words stayed with him, the way being near them always left him feeling changed. Maybe he had always known this deep down, but refused to see it. "Change isn't easy," the seer said. "It will test you. Break the walls you've built around yourself. But if you let it, if you follow this path, you'll discover parts of yourself you never knew." The man felt the weight of those words settle on him. He stood at a turning point. He could ignore this, call it nonsense, and go on with life as usual. Or he could take a risk, step into the unknown, and believe that this connection was meant for something more. The decision stood before him like an open doorway, full of fear but also full of possibility. As the session ended, the seer's voice softened. "No path is ever certain," they said. "But this one is yours. Trust it." The man walked out into the night, still clutching the photograph. The city lights blinked around him, but his mind was elsewhere. He had always believed he was in control, but now, for the first time, it felt like something larger was guiding him. He looked down at the image once more, and a single thought rose clearly in his mind. He had been given a choice. And though fear lingered, something stronger pushed him forward. It was time to step into the unknown. As he walked through the city streets, the photograph clutched tightly in his hand, the man's thoughts ran deep. The world around him moved as it always had. Cars passed, lights changed, people hurried by, but to him, everything felt different. The photograph burned in his palm, not from heat, but from meaning. He couldn't stop looking at it, Every time his eyes met the image, 1,000 feelings stirred. Familiarity, curiosity, fear, hope. He remembered the first time he met the person in the photo. It had been a normal day, cloudy, quiet, forgettable. But the moment they stepped into the room, something shifted. They didn't say anything special at first, but their presence alone was enough to make time slow down. Now he understood why. The seer had confirmed it. This was no ordinary connection. The man wandered without direction, passing buildings and shops without seeing them. He tried to make sense of it all. He had always believed life was built by choices, logic, steps taken with reason. But this felt different. This felt like something chosen for him, something waiting all along. He sat down on a bench near a quiet park. Night had fallen completely now. Trees swayed gently in the wind. Street lamps cast golden circles on the pavement. Still holding the photo, he stared at it again. The person's eyes seemed to look back at him, calm but intense, as if they knew what he was thinking. He felt exposed, like they could see the truth he barely admitted to himself. The seer's voice echoed in his mind, "They are a catalyst. Their presence reveals what has been hidden." He took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm inside him. Was he ready to see what had been hidden? Was he ready to let this connection shape his future? His phone buzzed. A message. It was from them, the person in the photo. Just a simple question, "Are you okay?" He stared at the message for a long time. The timing felt unreal. Had they sensed something too? Slowly, he typed back, "Can we talk?" The reply came quickly. "Of course." "Where?" He gave them the name of a quiet cafe nearby. It was a place he had gone to many times when he needed to think. It was never crowded, always warm, and the perfect place to talk without being disturbed. He stood, slipped the photo into his coat pocket, and headed in that direction. The cafe was nearly empty when he arrived. Soft music played. A few people sat scattered at tables, sipping drinks and working on laptops. He found a booth in the back and waited. His heart thumped in his chest, nerves fluttering in his stomach. Then the door opened, and they walked in. They spotted him quickly and gave a small, knowing smile. That same calm energy filled the space between them. As they sat down, he realized how much he had missed that feeling. Even before speaking, their presence grounded him. "You okay?" they asked gently. He nodded slowly. "I think I'm starting to understand something. Something important." Their eyebrows lifted, encouraging him to go on. "I saw someone," he said. "Someone who looks at the world in a way I've never seen before. They told me things I didn't even know I needed to hear. About you. About this." He paused, trying to find the right words. "They said you're not here by accident. That you're part of something bigger." that we're connected in ways I don't understand yet. They didn't laugh. They didn't brush it off. They simply listened, their eyes filled with quiet understanding. I know how strange this sounds, he added, nervous again. But I can't ignore it anymore. You've always made me feel like I'm standing on the edge of something huge. I didn't know what it was. Maybe I still don't. But I want to find out. They smiled then, softly, like someone who had waited a long time for those words. I've felt it too, they said. For a while now. But I didn't want to push. I didn't want to scare you away. You didn't, he said quickly. I think I was just afraid of what it would mean if I let myself believe it. They reached across the table, their hand brushing his gently. Believing doesn't mean having all the answers, they said. It just means being willing to look. Their hand lingered, warm and steady. He looked at them, really looked. He saw someone who had challenged him without ever needing to say much. Someone who had made him question what he thought he knew about himself. Someone who, just by being there, had begun to change his life. And now, with everything laid bare, he didn't feel fear anymore. He felt possibility. They talked for hours. About the past. About moments that once seemed small but now felt meaningful. About the strange timing of their meetings. The way they always seemed to cross paths when one of them needed the other most. It wasn't coincidence. Not anymore. As the night wore on, and the cafe emptied, something unspoken passed between them. A quiet agreement that whatever this was, they were ready to explore it together. When they stepped outside, the city had quieted. The streets were slick with a recent drizzle, and reflections shimmered in puddles beneath the streetlights. They stood close, neither wanting to say goodbye just yet. I don't know where this leads, he said. Neither do I, they replied. But I'm not afraid of finding out. He nodded. Then let's find out together. They walked side by side, the city stretching before them like a blank page. Every step felt like a new beginning. The photo in his pocket no longer felt heavy. It felt like a key, one that had unlocked something deep inside him. The seer had said transformation wasn't easy. That it required letting go of who you thought you were to become who you were meant to be. He finally understood what that meant. The world hadn't changed, but he had. And now, he was ready for whatever came next. As they disappeared into the night, two figures moving forward without fear, a quiet truth settled in his heart. Some connections are written not in chance, but in the stars. Days passed, but the feeling didn't fade. In fact, it deepened. Every moment with them felt like peeling back layers of himself he hadn't known were there. Conversations went from surface talk to soul-deep explorations. They spoke of dreams, of fears never voiced aloud, of memories half-buried. It was as though their presence gave him permission to be fully seen, even in the places he once tried to hide. But not everything came easy. With the connection came questions. Strange coincidences followed them, phone calls that cut out the moment they began discussing certain topics, dreams that mirrored each other's with eerie precision, moments of silence that felt filled with meaning. The seer's words returned often, like a drumbeat in the back of his mind. They are sent. Their energy reveals truths long buried. He began to feel things he couldn't explain. A pull in his chest when they weren't near. A sensation of being watched when he was alone, not in a threatening way, but like something was observing him, waiting. He dismissed it at first, just nerves, maybe excitement, but the signs kept coming. Lights flickering when emotions ran high. Time seeming to stretch or shrink depending on what they were saying. Once, when he reached out to touch their hand, a nearby candle flared suddenly, its flame rising higher than it should have. He brought it up hesitantly one evening as they sat beneath the stars in a quiet park, wrapped in shared silence. "Have you felt it?" he asked, voice low. "That something more is happening? That it's not just us?" They looked at him for a long moment, the moonlight casting silver shadows across their face. "Yes," they said simply. "I've felt it since the day we met." "Why didn't you say anything?" "I wasn't sure if you were ready to hear it." He nodded slowly. "I wasn't. But I am now." They reached into their bag and pulled out something he hadn't expected, a small, worn journal. They handed it to him carefully. "I've been writing things down. Things I couldn't explain. Things I remembered, even though I was never sure if they were mine to begin with." He flipped through the pages, eyes widening. There were sketches of places they had never been together, yet he recognized them. Mountains. A wooden door carved with ancient symbols. A tree standing alone in a field beneath 3 moons, impossible, and yet somehow familiar. Scribbled notes filled the margins, phrases like "shared lifetimes," "the thread returns," and "this time, don't run." Goosebumps rose on his arms. "What does this mean?" he asked, almost whispering. "I don't know," they said. "But I think we've known each other before. Not just in this life." The weight of their words struck him like a wave. Part of him wanted to reject it, to cling to reason. But another part, the deeper, quieter part, felt only a sense of calm recognition. Like hearing a song he'd forgotten but somehow still knew every word to. He looked back at the journal, then at them. "So what do we do now?" "We follow it," they said. "The pull. The path. Whatever it is. We're not alone in this. And maybe we never were." In the weeks that followed, everything began to shift. The world still looked the same, people still hurried to work, traffic lights still blinked red and green, but to him, everything held more meaning. Small things glowed with purpose. Patterns appeared where once he saw only chaos. He felt guided. They traveled together, chasing dreams and signs, sometimes just vague feelings, other times clear, powerful nudges. A name scrawled on a train station wall that matched one from the journal. A melody hummed by a street musician that matched a tune they'd both dreamed about. A strange stone pendant found buried in a garden they visited, pulsing warm in his hand. At night, he would lie awake thinking about the seer, wondering how much they had truly seen, wondering how many others had crossed their path, carrying stories wrapped in mystery. And slowly, the man realized something even more profound than fate. The journey wasn't just about discovering the truth of this connection, it was about uncovering himself, who he had been, who he could become. They had once said transformation wasn't easy. They were right. It was uncomfortable, often terrifying. But it was also beautiful. With each new step, the man shed parts of his old life. The routines, the false beliefs, the need for control. In its place came wonder, openness, a trust in something beyond what the eyes could see. He and the person from the photograph, no longer just a name or a face, but a partner in something vast and unspoken, moved forward together, led by instinct, intuition, and something that felt like memory from another time. One day, as they walked along the edge of a cliff by the sea, the wind whipping around them, the man turned to them. "I used to be scared of this," he said, "of what it would change in me. And now," they asked, "I'm more afraid of what I'd be without it." They said nothing, only took his hand in theirs and looked out at the horizon, where sky met water in a seamless, endless line. It felt symbolic, like the joining of two realms, the known and the unknown, the past and the future, the self and something greater. And deep within, the man knew, this was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning of something ancient waking up inside him. Something that had waited a long time to be remembered. Not all truths come loudly. Some arrive in whispers, in faces that feel familiar, in paths that call us when we're quiet enough to listen. He had listened. And now, with each step, he walked not just toward a person, but toward himself. And in that unfolding, there was no fear, only freedom. Seasons shifted as they journeyed together, autumn leaves curling into frost, winter snow melting into spring bloom. Time no longer passed the same way. Some days felt infinite, others blinked by in an instant. But every moment carried weight, meaning, a kind of silent guidance that neither could explain but both had come to trust. They moved often, never quite settling in one place for too long. It wasn't restlessness. It was as if the world itself had begun to speak to them through signs and synchronicities. A stranger's words echoing a dream from the night before. A road sign pointing to a forgotten memory. A child on a bus humming a lullaby neither of them had heard since childhood, yet both remembered. The man began keeping a journal of his own. Not just for events, but for feelings. Visions. Flashes that came without warning. Sometimes they were vivid, him standing under a different sky, holding a sword, or watching cities fall into sand. Other times, they were quieter, a scent that tugged on his soul, a voice that echoed just beyond waking. He stopped questioning whether these experiences were real. He knew now that real wasn't always visible. Some truths lived in symbols, in dreams, in memory carried not by the mind, but by the spirit. They found themselves one evening in an old town nestled between two rivers, a place neither had heard of until a travel delay rerouted their train. The streets were cobbled, narrow, and lined with lanterns that cast long shadows. They wandered into a small bookstore that looked older than the buildings around it. Inside, the smell of paper and dust clung to the air like a relic. The man ran his fingers along a row of books. One fell, gently, silently, landing open on the floor. He knelt and saw a passage that sent chills down his spine. Two souls meet across lifetimes, drawn again and again to finish what once was left undone. Time bends around their bond. They will find one another. Always. He looked up, heart racing. They were watching him, expression unreadable, as if they had known he would find that page. Later, sitting by the riverbank, he showed them the passage. They read it, then closed their eyes for a long time. "I've seen this before," they said finally. "When I was younger. In a dream." "It's happening again, isn't it?" he asked. "A story repeating itself?" "Not repeating," they said softly. "Evolving." He thought about that, how sometimes life doesn't loop, it spirals. Moving forward while circling deeper. That night, as they lay under a sky heavy with stars, the man felt something break open inside him. Not in pain, but in revelation. He had spent so much of his life trying to hold things together, his image, his past, his beliefs. But now, he was learning to let go. To unravel. And in that unraveling, he was finding peace. They held hands in the quiet, their fingers interlaced not just in affection, but in understanding. No words were needed. Their silence said everything. But even as the bond between them deepened, so did the mystery. He began hearing whispers in moments of stillness. Not voices exactly, more like echoes. Not in language, but in feeling. Urgency. Longing. Warning. He couldn't tell if they came from within him or from something else. But they always came when he was alone. One evening, as he walked alone through a fog-covered field, he saw a figure in the mist. Not clearly. Just the shape of someone standing still, far off. Watching. He paused, heart pounding. The air grew colder. He blinked, and the figure was gone. He told them about it later, expecting doubt or concern. But they only nodded. "I've seen them too," they said. He exhaled slowly. "Do you think they're connected to us?" "I think they're waiting." "For what?" "For us to remember." In the days that followed, dreams became more vivid. They often shared them upon waking, only to realize they had dreamed the same thing. A temple with no doors. A storm that never touched the ground. A name that neither of them could pronounce, but both somehow knew. They began keeping a map. Not a map of cities or countries, but of places they'd seen only in dreams. Forests with violet leaves. Towers built from bone-white stone. Oceans lit by stars beneath the waves. It felt ridiculous, at first. But the more they drew, the more sense it made. Patterns emerged. Connections. Coordinates that lined up with ancient places on real maps. It became clear, their bond wasn't just personal. It was part of something larger. Something sacred. Something old. One day, while hiking through a mountain pass, they stumbled upon a circle of stones arranged in a spiral. At its center stood a tree, twisted, silver-leafed, humming with unseen energy. The moment he stepped inside the circle, he felt a vibration in his bones, like the earth itself was speaking his name. He turned to them. "This place, it's from the journal." They nodded. "We've been here before. A long time ago." A strange calm settled over him, mixed with awe. As he stood there, a memory returned, not from this life, but another. A different name on his lips. A promise made beneath a different sky. The wind picked up, swirling leaves into the air. Around them, the world felt sharper, more alive, as if they had crossed a boundary they couldn't see. That night, sitting beneath that same silver-leaf tree, they lit a small fire and spoke quietly. "We're not just remembering ourselves," he said. "We're remembering the world." They nodded. "And maybe healing it." He looked at them, not just as the person from the photograph, but as someone ancient, familiar, and endlessly new. A mirror to his own soul. "Do you think this ends?" he asked. "No," they replied. "Not in the way we once thought. I think we return. Again and again. Not to suffer, but to find each other. To finish the story." He was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, "Then I'm not afraid anymore." They smiled. "Good. Because we've only just begun." Above them, the stars turned slowly in the sky, marking time not in hours, but in lifetimes.